So let's focus in on Florida, and in particular, what is happening in the community of St. Augustine, Florida. Tracy Upchurch is the mayor, and he is my guest this morning. Mayor Upchurch, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Canadian television. Hello.
Heather, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I was talking a little bit about the state situation and how the numbers have been going up in Florida in a really worrisome manner. What about in your your community in particular? What's been happening?
Certainly, we have seen an uptick. We're representative of the state as a whole in that regard. What makes life different in St. Augustine is while we're only 14,000, we have a tremendous number of visitors that come and stay with us really year round, but particularly during the summer. And so while we're only 14,000, we literally will have millions of visitors a year. So creates an interesting dynamic for us here in St. Augustine.
And could potentially create a very difficult situation for COVID-19, I would imagine, if it were to have a resurgence. What about your hospital capacity? Is that anywhere in the region? Is that an issue for you too right now as the numbers go up?
Thankfully, our capacity has been excellent. It was not an issue back in the spring and is not currently an issue. As you know, what we're seeing are younger people infected. And so generally speaking, at this point in time, their cases are milder and are something that are managed at home. And we're having very little demand actually on the healthcare hospitalization system.
Well, that is good news. But as you say, worrisome as you watch. Now, we're looking at some beach scenes from further south from where you are, but you have a couple of beautiful beaches yourself, and you have a big holiday coming up on Saturday. So as you were looking at things, in your community, you became the first city to make, in the northwest part, to make masks mandatory. Tell me a little bit about what the new rules are.
And they're really pretty reasonable, pretty benign. This is not a draconian measure by any means. What we've asked people to do, and we had a meeting on Friday, an emergency meeting where the commission voted unanimously, is to require masks inside when social distancing is not possible. And so it's really pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think the challenge that we have suffered from, that we've faced here in the States, and I can only assume you have faced something similar, is very conflicting information. And we have folks that want to do the right thing, but are confused about the efficiency of what's the best thing to do. So part of what we're trying to do is just to give them some clear direction that wearing masks are beneficial to the wearer as well as those people they come in contact with.
Well, you're right. Here in Canada, too, the guidance on masks has evolved over these months. But where we're different from, I think, your communities, it has not taken on the political overtones of wearing a mask or not, which have been really quite striking, I think, as I've watched the American situation. You went ahead and made them mandatory and explained why, and what has been the response in the weekend that we're just coming out of is the first weekend of mandatory. What was the early response?
Twofold. One is a certain degree of confusion. Does this apply to me? Because understand it, as you described, we are a community of 14,000 in a county of 250,000. And so our regulation only impacts our small community. And you could not tell when you're driving down a road whether you've left our community and gone into the county or vice versa. So a little bit of confusion about that. But by and large, my wife and I were out and about on Sunday, and people appear to, in good faith, trying very hard to do the right thing.
Clarity. I'll stress that, because a number of municipalities in Canada, including Toronto today, actually debating whether or not to follow similar rules to yours. So that'll be an important part of communicating the message. Okay, a couple of quick questions before I have to conclude. Would it help to clear up some of that confusion if your president were to wear a mask?
Yes, absolutely it would. We lead by example.
And he won't. And he continues to refuse. We've seen the vice president, not the president. Maybe we'll see today. All right. Then I look ahead to Saturday. I was noting, I think you've had to cancel your fireworks for the 4th of July, which is always a shame. But how are you going to handle the biggest celebration of the year in COVID-19 when you have beautiful beaches and people anxious to have lots of festivities? What are you going to do in St. Augustine?
Well, first of all, we did cancel the 4th of July fireworks many weeks ago. Substantially every other community in Northeast Florida has done that, except for Jacksonville. I understand theirs are still on, and of course that's where the Republican National Convention will be later in the summer. That was obviously, it made us look brilliant by canceling it weeks ahead of time, but absolutely the right thing to do. The beaches are not technically in the jurisdiction of the city of St. Augustine, but it is absolutely possible to be on the beach, to be in the sun, to be in the air, and also to be respectful of social distancing. So we don't have any we don't have any planned community activities, which we typically would. So we're as optimistic as we can be that we have done the appropriate things for the holiday.
Well, all the best with the celebration, and thanks for telling us about the mandatory masks, as I said, as communities here move toward that as well. Mayor Upchurch, I appreciate your time this morning.
Heather, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.